was regarding, how does one approach it? Like, the whole process.
We are very efficient. We have emails. We work around the clock, 7 days a week.
Talking to him right now.
I met a lot of good people this last 2 days, and I think hopefully we'll make some local connections, and through Ed we get to know Aya and a lot of I've seen some very impressive companies here. So
don't take it as an insulting question, but is it better in any way to get an investment from a Chinese VC other than an American VC or an Israeli VC?
Wow, VCs are VCs. We're there to make money.
Software companies, media companies?
Yeah, we have a lot of great media companies. In fact, another strong fellow, Alan Yan, you may know, is founded at China, which is a ad platform by aggregating all the websites in China except the top 4 and reselling and it's going spectacular. Again, I cannot comment too much because it's filed for one of the 6 company filing for IPO this year. But media is a great space. Software have been disappointing, and I think here you have a lot of innovation. In China, I have not been able to find a great software company yet. The best software company is the one we invested 2 years ago when IPO this year in the Shanghai Exchange. Is a Bloomberg of China stock trading software. It's called Big Wisdom, 大智慧. So it aggregates all the trading data of the institutional investors and provides subscription services to the consumer traders, either on the iPhone or the BlackBerry or online. And it's a great business because China is a momentum market, so everybody wants to understand that data. So that company, since it's public, I can disclose, has 20 million mobile users online. We still not monetize that. The online subscription we're able to charge anywhere between 5,000 to 50,000 a year renminbi. Is generating last year 300 million renminbi in EBITDA.
I have a question. Are there any common themes across your portfolio companies that are challenges? Like, are there any common challenges across your companies?
People. Right. So I was the acting CEO for one of the company for a year and a half until 2 months ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make this trip. So when you have companies go through different phases, either scientists or the CEO not working out, I think that's one value that our team can bring. All of us were not financial investors. We were operators and entrepreneurs in our prior life. So we don't panic. The other thing is we are much more patient than our other venture capital. I mean, many of our companies, we aim at 6 to 7 years of holding before we consider IPO. And in China, the time to build a company is probably much more difficult than in Boston because the ecosystem, the supporting infrastructure is not as efficient. So people probably is the common challenge.
Oh, I've got a microphone.
Could you comment a little bit about exit strategies for consumer healthcare products where you don't have insurance involved but out-of-pocket expenditure?
Sure.
Repeat the question.
Sure. The question is the request was to comment on exit strategies for consumer healthcare products that are not linked to reimbursement strategies. Yes, but don't take what I say with a grain of salt because we haven't exited yet. But the The short of it is, the traditional wisdom is always build your company as a standalone company, as if it'll never exit, as if it'll never get acquired or go public, because it's because those are the best kind of companies to acquire and to go public, right? But as far as exits go, I look at the biotech space, at the pharmaceutical space, which is facing all sorts of increasing regulatory challenges, increasing scientific challenges in terms of needing to discover new drug classes. They're looking to diversify, like Sanofi Aventis. Sanofi is not the only one. And so I think that's a great area of interest. I think they would be quite interested in this space. Sanofi just bought Chatham, which is which owns a bunch of consumer brands for I think $2 billion, foot rubs and mouthwash. What's a pharmaceutical company doing that? Why are they doing that? It's because they need to diversify away from and to smooth out the patent cliffs and the revenue cliffs. So that's one. As you probably know, consumer medical devices are quite health devices. They can be quite expensive marketing. They can come with quite expensive marketing strategies, and so having commercial partners who then eventually take you out would make a lot of sense. So get drug companies to buy you. That's the answer. Yes.
But the photo that you showed of your team at the time of your first sales looked like you're going to a pretty big organization. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And it actually reminds me of a question I was going to ask Sonny here on whether there is a super angels ecosystem in China or not. I've heard there are a lot of people with a lot of money there. For us, we got super angel funding, so folks who wrote $500,000 and $1 million checks, not the 50, 100K folks, who we also had a few of. And so we did get a fairly substantial amount of funding in the early days. I think we raised over $22 million in angel financing. And then we did a Series C from a private equity shop for about $25 million in 2007. But for the most part, for a large part, we've been financed by revenue and gross margin. So we haven't been very capital efficient from a Chinese perspective, but from a Boston perspective, it's been okay. Primarily through the sale of meters and strips. And so basically what we did was we sold a bunch of meters and strips that the strips generated lots of great gross margin, 40-50% gross margin on blended, and that's with giving away meters. And then that funded the development of our new factory, of the mobile health stuff. Does that answer your question? A couple of things. First of all, we had difficulty getting the attention of VCs because we were not business people, or neither Sridhar, my other co-founder, or I had a healthcare background. So I think we had a hard time getting the attention of VCs at the time.
I think Sonny is a great entrepreneur. So I think one of the two criteria we look for is that they have to be pragmatic and resilient. I mean, I think he's also been very lucky to get the angel funding through the process. I think back to your question about American VCs and Chinese VCs. I think the U.S. VCs today are two gun side as a whole. Particularly in Silicon Valley. Not sure about here. I think similar could be said as well, because I think there's too much prescribed formula about what kind of teams, what kind of technology, what kind of market. The reality is there's no formula for success. So I think you just get whatever funding it takes. For us, the difference between GSR and an angel is that we are much more systematic. We look at 3,000 deals a year, 4 of us. We make 8 to 10 investments a year. But when we pick a investment, we stick with the company unless it blows up. So the company will always go through up and down. If they require money, we give them a bridge loan. We help them raise the next financing. So, for example, the company Lattice Power I invested in 2006 is doing very tough science, growing gallium nitride on silicon. We're able to leverage our investment, leverage the World Bank's investment, leverage Temasek's investment. We put in more than $200 million of investment into the company before we solve most of the issues with the material science, with the manufacturing, and with the product design. So angels, I think, in China today for internet companies, much more capital efficient. You can find $500,000, $1 million. But if you want to build a great company in many of the spaces, in wireless or in clean tech, semiconductor, you cannot rely just on angels. And having the institutional VC is important because it carries through the appropriate lifespan of a company.
Yeah, and I would underscore, highlight what Sonny was saying about the systematic nature of institutional investors, and we just couldn't crack through it at the time we did, but they were more not well-known VCs. So if you have a good name behind your company, I'm sure it would help a lot. With angels, we've had to be a bit more creative. So, looking on the board of the Diabetes Institute, seeing who was the founding donors and saying, hey, you, instead of donating $10 million to the Jocelyn, why don't you donate 9, give us $1 million, and then we'll put the stock in the name of the Jocelyn, and then if it does well, it's $20 million, and if it doesn't, it's 9. You still be a founding benefactor. Really non-traditional approaches. So, and most of the time it doesn't work, but occasionally there are people who are really passionate about what you're doing, especially when it's in healthcare. There's going to be some angel investor or VC who has diabetes out there who has a reason to invest other than just financial return, which could be great as well.
Have you seen a difference in entrepreneurs maturing in China throughout the years?
Yes, I think today is a much different landscape than 5 years ago or 10 years ago. When I went back to the country in 1993, there was no venture money. There was private enterprise was just starting. And today, there are entrepreneurs who are repeat entrepreneurs. There are entrepreneurs coming back from the Silicon Valley who are repeated entrepreneurs. One of our portfolio company CEO is an African American. So I think, again, it's due to the market forces, the market activities that attract the best talents from all around the world. I think, I still believe local entrepreneurs are the best. Just like, in Israel, there are a lot of local entrepreneurs, not necessarily MBAs, right? So half of our companies are local entrepreneurs. Many of them don't speak English. I would say half of our investments don't even have a proper business plan. We help them, fine-tune the business plan. But then, there are other ones who come from very high pedigrees and fancy slides. Yeah, that's a good question. We want to be local. So in China, in Beijing, we only have 2 offices. We have an office outside Stanford University on University Avenue in Palo Alto, literally off the train station if you've been in the Palo Alto, 101 University. That's our back office. We have an office in Tsinghua University in Beijing, literally next to the east gate of Tsinghua University. We do 2 offices, right? Maybe here. But we did that on purpose. We want to be local, so we are Parker Zhongguanchun. Our name is, many people accuse us. The name is in Chinese saying is Hantu, too provincial, because we don't have an English name. But our funding is global. in fact, less than 10% of our money is from China. And in that regard, again, I am blessed. And here they said that, GSR would not be possible without the institutional forces. Right? So World Bank is our investor, the ones that can disclose, many endowments, foundations, not only from the U.S. and Canada, Asia, many from Europe. They entrusted us to make appropriate decisions, and we can make decisions fast. We can make investment, back to your question, in 3 to 4 days, if we like the team. So we raised our 4 funds. The first fund was most difficult. I had to, go around the world for about a year and a half before I closed $75 million. But the last fund, Fund 4, we closed in 3 weeks. Oversubscribed. Don't understand the question.
What's the minimum size of your investment?
Our minimum investment is $100,000. Our largest investment is more than $30 million. And in fact, we specifically have a pot of money, $10 million for seed fund. So any 2 of our partners can decide to put up to $1 million. And our success rate of that pool of money has been more than 50%. So in fact, many of our deals we put in $500,000, $1 million. They test the idea, they work, then we bring other people in and give them $5, $10, $20 million. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you for coming all the way to Tel Aviv. And thank you all for being here. I will stay here for a few minutes in case you want to discuss. להתראות.